Crackle, crack, 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 crackle, crackle. This is the sound of aligning mirrors. This is the sound of trying to scrape aligning mirrors on the ground together to lead them together to get the light to reflect a certain way so that at the end of the day it's possible to connect all the streams of light to lean in one direction. That has to do with moving towards the necessity for items to line up in a certain frame of alignment, for the light to be able to refract and to reflect all the colors of the rainbow that are necessary to expand into a space looking streamlined, that is looking to develop more pipelines, that is looking into the other dimensions. It has to do with opening other wormholes, that has to do with opening pipelines of attempted legacy, and also making it somewhat difficult to be able to develop marketing perpetual energy. Sometimes it seems easy to just be able to advertise a business on the surface, but sometimes developing perpetual energy is a little bit more than a task that it seems like it might be than it is when it starts to begin with, when you start to think about it. But then the little bits of work that it takes to be able to put the things in, to align the different mirrors together, takes some time and refinement and refractory resolve precision to be able to get it certain alignment with precision and refinement with granular adjustments. It takes a lot of time and attention and patience, so keep it in mind when attempting to develop differing processes with differing people, especially to try to get them to align with their certain interests and their certain strengths, to be able to call upon those strengths and develop a game plan and develop like pipelines of energy codes where everybody gets together and all of their codes and their strengths are able to be worn on their shirt, and those shirts are focused in terms of continuous meetings to be able to continue to develop enhanced processes where everybody's strengths are worn on their shirt, and at the same time it's like they're mirrors at the same time, and all of those reflecting mirrors are able to reflect lights off of those badges of honor that have to do with their strengths. And so all of those conceptual energies are able to reflect together and then therefore expand upon where the light can travel. And the greater the light, the greater the impact, the greater the business, the greater the process, the greater the hope for continuing to try to add value to the whole business and the whole pipeline of adding demand and impact to the greater philanthropy energy, global philanthropy energy grid, to be able to add the most philanthropy energy value to the whole entire world that is possible. Oh. Yeah, that is the goal. Yeah. So as we look down the line, we're continuing to try to focus on all sides of spiritual finance as well as spiritual health, and we're trying to add value to all aspects of medicine, and we want to get deep into the interests and the necessities for finding spiritual health ways to also add services like connecting vibrations to be able to add value to certain levels of health in the beginning and or ending and all different stages of life, to use vibrational tools to be able to tap into the nervous system directly through items that have to do with touching and not touching certain aspects of the human functionality to align with the cells. Since after all, we are all atoms, all people are atoms, all energy is necessary to be able to be acknowledged within the human energy, such as that is why we are called anatomy, because we are all an atom. We are all an atom. Anatomy, an atom. It is very interesting to be able to sometimes decode this type of energy, to be able to reframe the energy, to be able to relook at the different types of energy, to be able to then be able to think outside of the spectrum of different technical, conceptual, theoretical, medical schools that are out there, so that it is possible to be able to reframe and retrain and reconceptualize the reframing of the health industry and of spiritual health. Spiritual finance has to do with spiritual health at the core of everything, because spiritual health has to do with spiritual health within the health of all human beings, to be able to then be able to move forward into spiritual finance in essence. So spiritual health is always at the core of spiritual finance, because the person at the core in terms of a healthy ecosystem that's inside and within the ecosystem of the human, that is within the person trying to practice spiritual finance has to do with the core of themselves to begin with. And it definitely starts with themselves at the inside of themselves and trying to develop a green energy in terms of being somewhat positive and developing a positive reinforcement process by doing things on a consistent day-to-day basis, which develops positive reinforcement to then be able to move into the finance realm. So it always starts with the core of the self. And so starting with the cells, starting to acknowledge that we are anatomy, that we are an atom at the same time, and therefore being able to get bite-sized, very bite-sized, narrow, nano mindset with how granular the energy is within all of us helps to be able to perspectivize and add zooming in and zooming out qualities into our perspectives and reframings of a mindset to be able to develop values and value systems and sets to be able to not just focus on spiritual health, but also spiritual finance. And we're trying to light refract in to call upon all the colors of the rainbow. And we also want to try to develop philanthropy TV shows, in essence, like three friends that are like a musician, like a comedy person, and like a priest, and like have different transpositions all across every single country, all across the world, just like a TV network does in an essential sense. But at the same time, we want all of those three characters to be able to sort of link together and be able to like meet each other in different ways, and also be able to switch countries sometimes and interchange countries and things like this. But it's also the nature of this type of this TV show mindset and conceptualization and crossover and cross-hatching and collaborations that has to do with the chaotic nature of continuous and consistent collaborations and going forward. So we want to try to continue to innovate this creative industry that is the entertainment industry that has to do with real life, because these three people, these musicians and comedy person and the stand-up comedy person, a musician, and a priest, they all go around every country that they're in, and they try to add value and seek out philanthropy. They try to do philanthropy live in every single episode, or it could be pre-recorded, it could be live. It doesn't matter either way. Like it could, because if it's pre-recorded, it can be a more significant type of a TV show or an outcome, and it also is planned, but it can be planned at the same time as like a flash mob. So at the same time, it's implemented as something that's set up, but at the same time recorded live. So at the same time, it's like a flash mob, and at the same time, it causes real impact and real results, but it's planned, and therefore it's planned, and it has more production value in that respect. Sometimes when it's planned, when you do things that are just live, it's a little bit whimsical, and it's a little bit difficult to rely on that whimsy. At the same time, you could say that, you could say that, you could say that. And so in many ways, we're trying to lean into the math side of life to get into the chaotic nature of life and the chaotic nature of all the aspects of life to be able to leverage things such as co-working in the outdoor space, getting into the mentality of having co-working into the outdoor space, like in essence, if you have little vehicles such as a spreadboard skateboard or spread stick skateboard, any little vehicles made by Digitech and Change for Game Studios, then it is a mindset that it is an automatic co-working vehicle, in essence, where it develops an automatic co-working mindset, like WeWork or other co-working establishments such as Industrious, for example, is another co-working company. And for example, they are able to therefore leverage their ability to be able to spread a network all across the world to be able to try to get people to make startups and start up businesses and such things. But when you flip it on its face and you develop the outside world as real estate all of a sudden, then all of a sudden everybody outside is able to be able to come together and make chaotic collaborations in the outside world. And that mindset foundationally being able to acknowledge from the foundational sense that everybody is entrepreneurs makes it so ultimately everybody is seeking to, as opposed to looking for gossip in life, that they're seeking to develop collaborations because they know they're entrepreneurs already, and they look for collaborations because it's just a foundational element inside the fabric of society once they acknowledge this acknowledgement. And then therefore everybody in the whole entire world, from young to old and old to young and everybody in between, is looking for collaborations or seeking for collaborations. It's part of the essence of the fabric of society at a certain time in life and a certain time in the future, at a certain time when we're able to better implement ourselves as Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios in the world as a more effective entity that is somehow respectable by some extensive degree. Yeah. So outside co-working elements would be super interesting if everybody in the world was sort of playing games outside. They were playing games because everybody was on vehicles made by Dinky Tech and Change for Game Studios, such as the spread stick, which in essence looks like just, a small aligned little electric vehicle that also can have pedals, so you're able to brake suddenly if necessary. But at the same time, it's just a recumbent bicycle that's a miniature-sized bicycle. And at the same time, when using this little vehicle, you're able to stop, and you can stop at any given time. And when you stop, you're able to think. And when you stop and you're able to think at any given time, you set up the kickstand and you're able to stop, and you can sit. It's almost like you're sitting like a car, but it's like a motorcycle, and that's what a recumbent bicycle is like. And so with that in mind, and that ability to be able to leverage, being able to sit like a normal seat, if you sit anywhere, if you pull up and you post up and you stop and you pull up the kickstand and you sit on the kickstand, and then you therefore think, and you just think, and you leverage the idea and the concept and the mindset of thinking, and you have notes and notepads, and you take notes and notepads, and you connect with nature, 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 and you continue to take notes, continue to think, and continue to take notes, and continue to leverage those notes. Then those notes eventually turn into entrepreneurship mindsets, and entrepreneurship mindsets that can turn into the code and the fabric and the code of society that has to do with the whole entire world continuing to collaborate. And as opposed to going and renting and spending money and spending assets and spending precious assets and resources and reserves on co-working spaces that have to do with boxes and real estate, in essence, for example, then it detracts value from the nature of the startup company and entity at the same time, and also does not get as much value as if somebody's working outside and sitting and standing next to a tree and touching the tree and getting the energy from a tree, and also having the energy of other people like Susie T walking by and riding by in another spreadboard recumbent bicycle that is also able to be a part of a random collaboration, because she's part of a random society that has to do with the whole entire world becoming a part of a mindset that has to do with the whole entire global movement that has to do with the global philanthropy energy grid, and everybody in the world trying to make the global philanthropy energy grid all together, because everybody acknowledges that they're entrepreneurs, and so therefore everybody's looking and seeking and searching for ways to collaborate with each other and develop new value, to add new value to all 8 billion people. All 8 billion people in the whole entire world as one giant familial family. And that can only happen realistically at the same time in a similar fashion if everybody is always outside, or at least the mindset lives outside. It always lives outside. So that's where the essence of global collaboration, in a chaotic sense, global collaboration that leads to global philanthropy energy. Global philanthropy energy that comes from global outdoor chaos collaboration that comes from outdoor co-working spaces among all 8 billion people in the whole entire world, because that chaotic outdoor collaboration comes from chaotic outdoor energy that comes from chaotic mental unstoppable infinite energy that is floating and swimming and swinging and flying around in the air and doing backflips and front flips, and is every single where, all over the place, everywhere, in all energy forms and formats all over the world. And so when we get outside, and everybody in the world is outside, using the outside as a co-working space, like WeWork or Industrious, for example, then the outside energy is able to help to turn the whole world into one giant, glamorous co-working space. And all this chaotic energy is able to flow right directly into the pipeline of entrepreneurship energy and collaboration to greater enhance the global philanthropy energy grid. And all that energy from global collaboration in an outdoor space is meant to connect with nature and combined with nature to be able to then theoretically be able to pipeline directly into the global philanthropy energy grid, because all of that energy that comes from that chaotic collaboration in outdoor space in nature is directly emanating and directly obligating itself, because that is the composition of what philanthropy energy comes from and is derived from. So it directly pipelines into the global philanthropy energy grid, because only philanthropy energy will come from the back end, from entrepreneurship, because all entrepreneurs are trying to solve problems in the whole world. And so that is a fantastic foundation for collaboration energy in nature. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, 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 oh. Let me see what else is left. And that's also the math power. That's also the math power of the outdoors and the math power of nature. The math power comes from definitely the chaotic nature of outdoor collaboration, co-working spaces. And so, when you try to develop relationships to be able to try to align with mirrors, and you're trying to continue to align mirrors in different places, in different ways, with different people around the world, that when you start to have conversations with people, that you're able to start to track them. And also you document all the meetings, in essence. So you start to develop kind of like a corporation mindset at an early time, just by simply taking notes and developing a note to be able to hand out at the beginning of a meeting and have it on file at the end of a meeting, either in like an email format or something to this effect, so all of the meetings can be held and be kept track of in a simple outline format. And even if you have like an audio recording similar to this podcast, if you have those things, those two little things in like an email format to be able to continue to track progress and continue to also try to use that to be able to leverage continuous future progress, then it helps to be able to also lead towards future productivity, as well as developing and enhancing light potential within all your mirrors that you're trying to develop a business with, to be able to develop the greatest light by deflecting and reflecting mirrors off of people, different people that you continue to reflect light off of, because you're continuing to enhance the productivity and the process that's leading up to the process where the mirrors can be put into place, where they're actually ready to go, and the mirrors actually are aligned. They're only finally aligned when you're actually finally in business, and there's finally cash flow, and there's finally a positive cash flow process. Then that happens once all the mirrors are aligned and the energy is moving in that direction, where there's a conceptual perpetual energy in place, and all that perpetual energy is leading up into the sky, leading up to a rainbow spectrum of refractation of light, refracted light, leading up into the sky. And that is a reflection of a conceptual reflection in a metaphorical sense of cash flow happening within a business entity, in essence, and all of the right the value propositions are in place, and all of those alignments can continue to enhance themselves as they're continuously in place, and by continuing to have continuous meetings that are continuously aligned, similar to like a corporation. Even though you're not obligated to be a corporation, and even though you're not obligated to record calls, that's why corporations are semi-obligated to record calls, because that therefore helps hold them accountable to the things that they're talking about. And if you do that as a non-corporation, then it's still very ideal, and getting into that habit and that trend can help just align your mirrors among all your people, among all your core people within your corporation and foundation. You can keep all those chit-chats confidential if you want to, or among the team, or you could post them to a blog, so it's actually not just edutainment, just similar to this podcast, but it also adds value to the news factor element of your organization, your entity, and your non-corporation corporation. Or it could be a corporation also at the same time. But at the same time, if there's not an obligation to make these recordings, it's still a matter of enhancing and strengthening the process of every single conversation that's had in every single conceptual business aspect of the business pipeline, for every business meeting that's had. And that is just a significant way to keep steady on track, because there's a saying of, if you measure something, then it gets done. And that's the whole purpose, is for words to not be able to float into thin air, because that's wasted time, and wasted time is wasted money in theory, and wasted money is what we're trying to convert into philanthropy energy. And so we want the most productivity to hopefully result from this little podcast, weird little situation that we're recording today in this weird podcast way. All right. It's just about to be able to time to just check out of this little podcast scenario. Yeah. I suppose that's all for now. Oh, except for actually something that's a lot more negative and such thing as derogatory, which is that in the earlier part of the day today, there was a protest for the fur trade. The fur trade is a very depressing element of the world, and that's also why I'm trying to do more significant animal content, and most all of the content that is trying to inspire more content to be more frequent and more consistent with Tiki Tech and Change for Game Studios has to do with, and somewhat comes down to refer to animal awareness and trying to speak up for animals, in essence, like many of the animals in the world that don't necessarily need to be hurt, like in the fur trade, in the fur and animal trade. It's just like, in many ways, if there's alternatives that can be found, it's super, super ideal. There's 20 million animals that are killed every year for the fur trade. It's very much ideal to be able to rescue shelter animals, so shelter animals have homes, and to be able to not need to kill animals to facilitate the fur trade at all. It's not necessary. It's not necessarily necessary. There's other ways to be able to go about it. It's different if there's an element of a certain... It's just not necessary at all, necessarily. If there's just an element of not needing to do that, if there's an element of, in essence, finding an alternative, then that's how we should be trying to go about things, and focusing on a global healthy ecosystem, not focusing on monetary energy displacement of unnecessary, consistent waste. That's what this podcast is all about, is trying to get rid of monetary energy waste and repurpose that into philanthropy energy for the global philanthropy energy grid, so all human beings can thrive off of that, and coming to better common ground among every single human being in the world, as opposed to having sectioned off countries and weird trends where animals need to be hurt in the meantime. And we can improve the process of shelter animals, fostering pets, the respect for pets, the respect for animals to begin with, and just cut out the nonsense. Cut out the nonsense that's absolutely necessary. Because nobody needs to wear furs. It's unnecessary. There's a whole host of other options to be able to let the animals live their way, their natural way, because they guide us in spirit in ways that are more valuable than what we get from them, from this simple process of hurting them, for example. But then the other way around, as just spirit animals, just animals with spirits, with guiding spirits, they provide much more value in being left alone than they do being worn on something and having, some sellout, having to try to earn a couple extra dollars, that they're going to waste that money anyways, because a lot of money in the world is wasted because the energy of the animal is wasted on some frivolous business, negative, faulty process that's more or less just a scam on the global philanthropy energy grid. It's a scam on the assets of life, because the energy that's within the animal is much more valuable to the global society and the global energy of the global economy for all people to be able to actually benefit from that. It's robbing the world of that spirit animal energy, that animal spirit energy that can translate and transition into the global vibrations of the whole world and ecosystem within the world, to be able to contribute as assets that are much greater in spirit than it is by any stretch. And it's robbing the world, of the whole world, of that animal energy, which is much, much more valuable. So the nature of animal energy needs to be foundationally recognized as a value that's much, much higher than it's given credit for, and just be able to be realized to begin with, to then therefore be able to stop, and negating animals and stuff, negating their power and their energy, to be able to then start to realize it and then be able to leverage it as being able to help humans become magic, in essence. That's all. In the meantime, bye. Thanks again, Dinky Tech. Bye, peace. Bye. And Change for Game Studios. Bye. Peace. Bye.